Hola, Meme, Manuel Barrera. You know, maybe a year ago, I did a short video, uh, mostly about Molina. They now call it Motown USA. No, that's not what we called it. Uh, it was just Molina. But somebody asked for more stories about Molina. Well, I grew up in Molina. My family moved there in 1951. I was 2 years old. In fact, before I started this, I went back to read that thesis about Molina that someone wrote. And well, I would say most of it is true, maybe not all, because in fact, I called my sister, it's a year younger than me. One of the things that it said on there is that we didn't have running water. Well, we did have running water, we just didn't have toilets. We had outhouses. In fact, I helped my dad dig at least two holes before we got indoor plumbing or toilets. Helped him dig the channel so that we could put the sewer lines going down to the middle of the street. I remember that, but we always had running water as far as I can recall. Not too long ago, I rewatched La Familia, which is a story about a family in California. And I have to move my hands or maybe move more or do as one of those comedians said and move my head like this when I talk, kind of like the Indians do. That's a joke. But so anyhow, but we had toilets. Yeah, you went out there and that's middle of the night. If it was number two, you went there. If it was number one, you just opened the door and well, the rest of you are a guy. I'm not a girl, so I don't know what they did. But we had toilets in Molina, at least when I grew up. And I was there. I left in 68. After I graduated, I went to Del Mar Tech, actually got a degree in auto mechanics. While I was there, I asked the instructor how much he made. He told me he made more than my dad. He wore a little white lab coat, never got dirty, never seemed to really do anything. So I asked him where he got his degree, and he said at Oklahoma State University. So I took the ACT. I had never taken the SAT, ACT, but or like that when we were high school because we were not encouraged to go to college. Not at that time. Things have changed quite a bit. But one of the things that he mentions in the article is that a it wasn't really a gang fight, or because I'm not sure that it were gangs. It was barrio, and that was supposed to have occurred at that park in front of the church. And I do recall that I was asked to go. And so I asked the person that asked me, I said, well, what are we fighting about? And he goes, I don't know. I said, so I didn't go. But the following morning, as I was going to the Molina Junior High, I did go and look in the park, and you could see knives, you could see chains that were laying there in the ground. So there must have been something that occurred, uh, but not a fight, from what I understand. I think it never got that to that point because the police got there. But that part is true. Another part that I read somewhere is that junior high was 7th and 8th grade. Well, maybe it was 7th and 8th grade at some time, but when I went, it was 6th through 9th grade. So we didn't go to the Westover High School until we were in the 10th grade. 9th grade was there at the junior high. So I was in the band. I don't remember if it's the 6th grade or 7th grade when I started in the band. Our schools were segregated. Uh, The blacks did not attend school with us. They had their own little school there in Calallen, which was actually behind the Molina Junior High. So, but when we practiced band, they were in the band. So I got to meet a lot of them and know them then. And as long as I stayed in the band, which was up until the 10th grade, or maybe it was the 11th grade that I changed because we had a choice in band was always in the sixth period, but I wanted to take classes like chemistry, physics, trigonometry, solid geometry, and those were also electives, and they were in the sixth period. So I had a choice. I could stay in band or not. I chose to leave band and take those higher level science and math courses. But a story, most of what I remember are some of the bad things. For instance, one time coming back from a band trip, Mr. White, that used to be the principal of Molina Junior High, we stopped at a gas station, uh, and he stopped there also in his car, and this car of some people that lived in Molina came by and started shooting at him. So they didn't hit him, so and I don't think they ever caught him. And I guess they thought we were all crooks or bad people because at any time somebody broke into a school, they would line up the guys and they would fingerprint us. So, that was life in Molina. I in particular used to dress with khakis, pointed shoes, uh, a shirt that I never tucked in. I still don't. I did when I worked, but I still don't. Uh, and I remember someone asking me years later, said, "Well, how did you dress? How did you talk?" And I said, "Well, I guess you could say I dressed like a pachuco, because that's the way they used to dress. I talked, I guess, like a pachuco, but I wasn't a pachuco because we didn't think of ourselves as pachucos. In fact, the only person that I knew that actually did drugs was, I don't even recall his name, but what he did is he inhaled glue, that model glue that you used to use on airplanes to, or model cars to put it on together. He was always there with his little bag and like that. But, he died really young, either late 19, 20, 21, something like that. Just, but the rest of us, we didn't do that. The ones that did start using drugs was after Vietnam. They got hooked in Vietnam. And so, but we could leave our house unlocked and no one would go in. And I'm not sure about now, but I can tell you that when my parents passed away, 2004, we were going to one of the funerals, and so my brother went and asked people that lived in front of my house. They were, I'm sure they had some, in fact, I know that they had been arrested for numerous things, but he asked them if they could watch our house. And they said, yeah, nobody's going to go in there. So people just didn't break in to our neighbors, our neighborhood's houses. We didn't do that, at least not in the part of this area of Molina where I lived at. And so, and just one more story about Molina, and this happened much later. My brother Jorge, who's now passed away, he was on the school board, but one time he went to work and he forgot to close the garage door. When he got back from work, our neighbor across the street, his name was Raul. I believe his last name is Rodriguez, but I'm not sure. He came out and told my brother, "Don't you ever do that again. I sat here watching your house all day." That's the type of people that Molina had. Good neighbors. Were we perfect neighbors? No. We were poor, yes, but most of us didn't know we were poor. We had parents that loved us. Most of us did not go hungry, and not that I'm aware of. And so that's my story for today on Molina. Y'all have a great day. Bye.